It's a new year and the same problems. Chelsea traveled to Selhurst Park and come away with a 1-1 draw. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P. Please do me the favor, hit the like button, hit the bell notification button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to keep up with the latest and the newest. Happy New Year to you all. Obviously, I haven't been able to do a lot of reviews the last little while with being the Christmas period. Obviously, family commitments, obviously travel, and it just made it very difficult to find the time to put together a review for you guys. But to be honest with you, it hasn't really been that different the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, the Ipswich game, the Fulham game, Crystal Palace, and I'm forgetting one somewhere in there, Everton. Chelsea have not really been hitting on all 4 cylinders. Now, obviously, during the Christmas period, the games come at you thick and fast, and the only way to successfully navigate that is with a deep squad, which is what we thought we assembled at the beginning of the year. 2 players for each position, like-for-like substitutions, and the ability to rotate when needed. And for all year, all Maresca's been talking about is this period of time where Chelsea, will have games to give to players that haven't been playing a lot because, we're going to need them. We're going to need to rotate the squad to be effective over this period. And, it's really not played out like that at all. Obviously, we had a couple key injuries. Fofana was a massive miss. Lavia's still not back to full fitness. Obviously, Reece James, another one, is a key miss. But, in terms of rotating the squad and giving us the best chance to win some of these matches over the Christmas period, I don't think that Maresca's done a good enough job of that. And to be honest with you, I'm not necessarily hanging it on him specifically because even though we do have a young squad and, we're still learning, it's the same thing for him. I think Maresca is learning as he goes as well. He's never been able to, manage a Christmas period like this before. He doesn't know the rigors that go into playing, in the Premier League at this level during this period of time. So you have to give him the opportunity to, scuff his nose and learn as he goes as well as a young manager. But the thing that we're all up in arms about is the fact that we had an opportunity here to really close the gap amongst the leaders and, against teams that we consider to be the lesser lights of the league. Obviously, there are no easy games in the Premier League, but when you're coming up against an Ipswich, when you're coming up against an Everton, you're coming up against a Fulham, you expect to collect points there. And again, today, against Crystal Palace, Chelsea put themselves in a position where they could succeed, where they could take all 3 points. And, the lack of rotation, the lack of, being able to really solidify and close the game was just evident. And for me, the biggest problem today wasn't Chelsea's inability to score goals, but the opposite, the inability to solidify, take away space, and basically see out the win. I think that Maresca, throughout the entire game, throughout this entire period, Chelsea have always been on the front foot. They're always looking to probe and score goals. And the thing that I think that you need to do in situations like this, especially when you're not rotating the squad, where, guys are fading, they feel a little bit jaded and, fatiguing throughout the match, we have to find a way to take away the spaces and solidify and, just preserve the win rather than looking to kill the game. And I mean, there's fine margins there when you think about it. There's a fine margin between killing the game and obviously taking the sting out of the game and just preserving the win. And I just think that in games like this against Crystal Palace, where Chelsea go up 1-0 and, we're probing, we're obviously very offensive minded, playing a very attack minded setup. We'll get into that. And, we get to the 70th minute, the 72nd minute, and we still haven't found the way to kill the game. At that point, you have to look at how you're going to look to preserve the win. 1-0 away at Selhurst Park, that would have been more than enough for Chelsea to just say, let's just shut up shop, solidify, take away the spaces, and not surrender a goal. Let's look to play for the clean sheet here. And I think that that's where the inexperience came in from Maresca. We just did not variate the tactics well enough to see out the match. And I've been saying for a long time that Chelsea have assembled an attacking team. We are an attacking team. That is where we're strongest in attacking areas. That's where we have the most depth. But yet that's where we see the least amount of rotation. I mean, the fact that we're looking to kill the game. Jackson hasn't had a very good game, not looking very good. And we have Nkunku on the bench. He still does not have the opportunity to come into the game. Cole Palmer, after scoring, obviously scores in the first half, and then, is a little bit off the pace in the second half. Gets another 90, despite looking jaded, tired, and giving the ball away, which basically led to their equalizer. It's the lack of rotation in these positions that I think are to the detriment of this team. Now, obviously, you can make the argument that Maresca hasn't really assembled the team that he wants. These are guys that have been given to him, and he's, being forced to use them in situations where, or in positions where they may not be the most comfortable when I speak to Nkunku. But the bottom line is, this is a squad that you've been dealt. You have to be able to navigate that now. Obviously, over the Christmas period, we have a plethora of games, a wealth of games. You have to be able to manage that by utilizing the squad completely. And too often in games like the one against Crystal Palace, where we're in control of the match but not killing it off, Maresca has just failed to make the substitutions to impact the game. And I'm not saying that you need to have somebody that comes in and just scores that goals. It would be nice. Obviously, Chelsea don't necessarily have a plethora of goal scorers at their disposal, but it'd be nice to even just freshen up the squad, even if it means just getting fresh legs onto the pitch. Played a lot of matches in a very short period of time. Guys are going to be tired. Where is the rotation? Even if you're bringing off, Sancho, and you're bringing on somebody like João Felix, just to, again, just chew up minutes so we can have fresh bodies on the pitch. That could have been all that was required to get us, over the line. But Maresca continues to play the squad that he prefers and runs them into the ground. Like, again, I've been saying for a while now that I understand that you don't have the players that you may want in each position, but even if you don't think that like Nkunku's going to be able to come on and give you exactly what you want, at some point you have to give him the minutes just to alleviate some of the stress that's being put onto the likes of Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson, like fatigue-wise, mentally as well. And even if it's just to have the fresh legs onto the pitch to give you something different, you have to rotate the squad that way. We cannot continue to run these guys into the ground and expect them to come back the next match. I think that specifically is what happened over this Christmas period. We just kept on using the same squad over and over and over again. And while their quality was dipping, we did not have the ability to switch them out and bring in fresher legs. Not that we didn't have the ability, the manager just chose not to do that. And it just reared its ugly head time and time again throughout the 4 matches that we played. Even if you want to stay with the same players on the pitch, why are you not at least dropping Enzo back into a double pivot with Caicedo to occupy take up a little bit more space and take away their ability to just cover through us? Like, it was very clear and evident that Caicedo was tired. He was just very much tired. You don't want to take him off, but at least give somebody else the responsibility of taking some of the burden off of, the space that he has to cover in order for us to, recover the ball. And unfortunately, we didn't do that. We kept Enzo in the attacking areas, and it was a single pivot for the entire game, and Chelsea, were just getting run through in the second half. Obviously, we had lots of possession. We were able to control the game with our possession for large chunks of it. But when Crystal Palace changed their tactics and went to a little bit more attacking intent and looked to thrust bodies forward, we didn't have any answer for them. Now, it wasn't all doom and gloom. Obviously, we didn't do enough to see out the match, but in the first half, I thought Maresca had the tactics spot on. We gave Crystal Palace all sorts of problems in wide areas where they're playing a 3-4-3, and we overloaded the wide areas. We did not look to invert any of our fullbacks. We basically used them as width. They gave the 2 wingbacks, Munoz and I believe it was Tariq Mitchell on the other side, all sorts of problems. And for me, that was where the game was being won and lost. Chelsea's ability to get out on the flanks and overload those areas. Now, part of the reason why I was really, really impressed with the tactics that we employed in the first half is because it asked multiple questions of the Crystal Palace defense. Obviously, you had a 2v1 situation out wide with Pedro Neto and Gusto overloading the likes of Tariq Mitchell. But in the middle areas of the pitch, it asked the same questions of Mark Gahey, whether or not he wanted to come deep to engage with the likes of Cole Palmer or stay home and basically help Tariq Mitchell defend the flanks. He made the right decision more often than not, but when he stayed home, which was the right decision, because then Chelsea are going 2v1 at Tariq Mitchell with nobody there to help. It also gave Cole Palmer all sorts of space in the middle area of the pitch, and in the first half I thought he was excellent at occupying those areas, picking up the ball, and of course he scores as well. And obviously with his runs being so hard to track, it made it easier for Chelsea to find those overloads in the wide areas, like the likes of, Pedro Neto and Gusto. On the other side you had Sancho, who had a fantastic game. I thought, like, every touch was a useful touch. He was probing. He was very decisive in the final third. Obviously the assist, but not just that. I thought that he was very, very threatening throughout the game. Now, it wasn't all guns blazing with our fullbacks just bombing forward, but it was a noticeable tactical switch where we picked spots where Cucurella would go forward and Gusto would hang back, or obviously the opposite of that. Obviously Gusto going forward and Cucurella hanging back in more of the halfback position. And it was very, very effective in the first half. I don't think that Crystal Palace came to grips with, the overloads in the wide areas. They did not have the ability to utilize any of their attacking players to help, take away the spaces, because, basically their whole game is transition. They're trying to get on the counter and break in numbers. And when we were pushing them back and hemming them back in, they weren't looking to have Mateta drop back. They weren't looking to have Eze drop back. I can't remember who the other attacker was, but they weren't, Ismaili Sarr. They weren't looking to help the defenders. So Chelsea had line share of possession down the flanks, and were creating overloads there because of how Crystal Palace wanted to play. They wanted to counterattack. They wanted to keep their attackers forward and not have them to have too much ground to cover to get back up the pitch. So again, I was just looking for Chelsea to variate their tactics a bit to compensate for the lack of energy that was on the pitch, whether it be bringing on some fresh legs just to give us a little bit more of an energy boost, or just dropping back a little bit further and soaking up pressure, like taking away the gaps of space to make it harder for Crystal Palace to play through us. I thought that would have been the tactic to see out the match, but again, with us being a young team and like not really showing the ability to have a plan B and another way of playing, I think it led to our undoing. As much as I'm not playing the blame game and I don't want to pin it on Maresca, I think it was just a poor decision not to look to utilize the bench a little bit more over the Christmas period and bring on some players, give them opportunities to either sink or swim, because the alternative here is you're running the preferred 11 into the ground and you're not getting those performances from them, and then you cannot use the players in reserve because you don't trust them and they haven't had enough repetition to get up to speed with what it is that you're doing. So on both scopes, like, you're not preserving the preferred 11 and you're also not utilizing the depth of the squad. I just felt like we just did not rotate the squad well enough to get the results that were required over the Christmas period, and that to me just comes down to a little bit of immaturity from Enzo Maresca. Now, I don't want to necessarily nitpick on poor performances, but I really feel like we had a really, really rough time at the right back position with Gusto. I just felt like he had an awful game, just kept on turning over the ball. And the problem with that was he was often the free man, because with the way Chelsea were playing, overloading the flanks, 2v1 with Neto Gusto going at Tariq Mitchell, he was often the free man. And the frustration for me was the fact that he was always turning it over when he was the free man, not making the right decisions. There's a time where we're breaking with numbers. He has Jackson going down the middle and all he has to do is slip it in and he's in on goal. And you have Neto on to the right, and I think he takes a decision to slow down the play a lazy pass out to Neto, and the move is broken down there. I think that he, again, just epitomizes what you think is a squad player, a guy that can come in a pinch and give you, performance, here and there. But overall, we cannot be relying on the likes of Gusto to give us, performances match after match after match. Obviously, Reece James is back now, and I'd like to see him play more now. I'd like to see him utilized a little bit more, just because we're not getting the quality that we normally get from that right flank anymore. We're just not getting it. Obviously, Fofana's a big loss as well. I thought that Josh Ashapon came in and gave us some good minutes there. I really do think that he's probably being utilized a little bit more going forward now. Did not play a foot wrong for the most part. Obviously, defensive awareness is still something that we have to question there, but, with young players, you expect that anyways. But overall, I think that that's a building block for him, in that right center back position, the role that Fofana basically had. You saw him dart into space a few times, showing his confidence and composure, and you saw him play some very deft passes into our midfielders and stuff. So this is what, the quality that is required in that position. He just needs more repetition and, a few more opportunities to, just build on his confidence and get going that way. But I'm really excited about what he has to offer going forward, because like I said before, I think that he's the prototype in that position. Center back that is comfortable on the ball, very comfortable marshalling up and down the right flank. That is the modern day center back right now, with the way that Maresca wants to play and the way modern football is played right now. So long way to continue. Hopefully he'll get a few more repetitions there, a few more opportunities to show what he can do there, and hopefully succeed in that role. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea travel to Selhurst Park and are unable to collect all 3 points, despite being up 1-0 to about the 70-something minute, and just can't see out the result. And I think it just comes down to, like I was saying in the video, is just a lack of in-game management, a lack of adjusting our style of play to suit what is happening on the pitch. And that comes down to the manager, but it also comes down to the players. We have to be able to be a little bit more resolute in those situations. Obviously, Cole Palmer gives away the ball, and it leads to a goal after having him score a fantastic one in the first half, off of the intuition or the ingenuity from Jadon Sancho, who I thought was our man in the match. I thought that Caicedo was close, but kind of faded towards the end of the game, and wasn't as impactful when we needed him to be. But overall, I just think that we need to show a way of, if we're not going to be able to score goals, if we're not showing the quality to attack teams and score at will, then we have to be able to be a little bit more resolute to preserve wins, to preserve leads. And that's just not happening right now. Chelsea are just as cavalier in the first minute as they are in the 90th minute, and it's leading to our undoing. We're a little bit too open for a defense that we don't necessarily trust, for a defense that isn't very solid. We have a young player, Josh Achapong, coming in. Who's helping him? Who's supporting him in defensive scenarios? You have a guy like Gusto who's got his head on a swivel, doesn't know where to go, doesn't know what to do, oftentimes being caught out. So again, this comes down to management. I hope that now that we have a little bit more health, we have the likes of Reece James coming back, we have Lavia coming back hopefully really soon, and hopefully that will give us the variation in playing staff that will lead to us collecting 3 points here forward. But until then, keep the blue flag flying high and up to Chelsea. Peace.